VisionOS developer tools, making high-quality live activities, and SwiftUI data flow. Hit the subscribe button so you won't miss fresh news about iOS and macOS engineering. I'm Serhiy Butenko, an engineer at Clean My Mac, and here we go with the news. Apple releases more open-source libraries. This time they introduced the SwiftHTTP types library. It allows you to create network requests more conveniently than it was with URL request. They added such types as HTTP request, HTTP response, and structures for describing HTTP fields. The whole package consists of 5 structures and extensions for URL session to convert new requests to old ones. So I'm wondering why Apple made a dedicated package instead of making it part of the new foundation on Swift. Maybe there is something we just don't know yet. Just like open source libraries, every year Apple improves SwiftUI and adds new APIs. In the previous episode, I briefly described the new observable macro. Today, it's time to figure out how to organize data flow on the UI layer, keeping in mind all the updates. It might be hard to understand the variety of approaches, and here is an article with detailed diagram. If the view owns its state, then you should use the state macro or a constant, depending on whether the state changes. If view doesn't own its state but gets it from the outside, then you have to choose between environment, bindable, and binding. The author describes each approach in details with code examples. For instance, bindable macro works only with observable classes, and for structures you need to use binding macro. Naming could be better. That's why I recommend you to read more about all the approaches and new macros. In fact, it's not as complicated as you might think. Lyft shows how they designed live activities. The main problem the designers faced was how to convey all possible trip states in a small presentation. Lyft can have 26 states of a trip, and the live activity has 4 presentations, so the team had to create designs for 104 states. To have a general picture of the flow, they made an interactive prototype, where you can switch between states and customize each presentation. The team faced another challenge: how to display the driver's progress. The simplest solution is to divide the progress by the number of minutes it will take the car to arrive, and every minute to move the car from the left point to the right. But then the scale becomes a bit unclear, because cars move at the different speeds depending on the estimated arrival time. Another solution is to make dynamic progress. The whole progress is divided into a certain number of steps that do not depend on the arrival time. In this case, it is 10 steps. The car that arrives in 3 minutes will be 3 steps away from the finish line, and the car that arrives in 9 minutes will be 9 steps away, so the user will understand that the car is about to arrive or is still far away. Lyft goes with the second option. Lyft designers know that you shouldn't try to cram as much information as possible into a live activity. Instead, you should embrace your limitations to understand what is really important to show the user and in what form. Finally, it's time to talk about VisionOS. Latest Xcode betas include a simulator for VisionOS, so developers rushed to check how their apps would work on Vision Pro. For example, here is a to-do list that was built without any changes for VisionOS, and it looks pretty good. In addition to the simulator, Apple has added a few test projects. The first project is Hello World. This project is aimed at introducing you to the basic concepts of spatial applications. The second project is Happy Beam. It's a game where you have to cheer up sad clouds with a heart-shaped beam. And the third project shows how to work with video and spatial sound. The simulator is quite useful, but it will be a challenge to create a high-quality application without a real device. Developers will have 3 ways to improve their VisionOS apps. The first way is to ask the app review team to test your app and give you feedback. The second way is to visit developer labs. Apple will be organizing events where you can install your app on Vision Pro and talk to Apple developers. Such labs will be available in London, München and Cupertino. And the third way is to get a developer kit, as it used to be with Apple Silicon. There is currently no information about this method. But it seems to me that Apple will not be very active in issuing devices. Have you run your apps in VisionOS? Or maybe are you planning to create an application for Vision Pro? Write down in the comments below. See you in the next episode at Menus.